All right, Tom Lee has said some very important things about the stock market and the election that's going on right now. You want to listen to this. We're going to listen to what Tom Lee had to say. Don't worry about subscribing, liking, or looking for the Discord and coaching link. Let's listen to what Tom Lee had to say about this volatile market right now where anything could happen during election time.
Following last week's inflation and jobs data, it's an interesting time to get some perspective from our next guest, Tom Lee. It says be prepared for volatility. Tom is managing partner and head of research at Fundstrat Global Advisors, as well as a CNBC contributor. Would you say, towards the last time you were on, you talked about the Trump trade being pretty strong. A lot of things turned back, reversed. DJT reversed. Bitcoin didn't move into the mid-70s, got in the low 70s. I don't know whether the banks and other Trump trades changed, and all the betting markets certainly moderated late last week, came back a little bit. Do you have a change in your opinion on the election now?
Well, it does seem like over the last 4 or 5 days, the election really narrowed when you look at betting markets or the polls. And I know a lot of people don't necessarily trust polls, but I think the quality and the adjustments to the polls have made them more accurate. So I think it is really a toss-up, and it's going to be a very close election. And something our clients are preparing for, because we did a survey last week, 76% don't think we'll have a winner declared election night. And 43% roughly expect it 1 week after. So I think markets are kind of bracing for this period of uncertainty. I think that's why many of the trades have reversed.
We've also heard about some of the trading houses that are not going to be putting any software updates in this week, even some people who want to be here rather than overseas to make sure they're closer on the ground to see what happens, too.
Yeah, so I think it's going to be a week where there's going to be a lot of worry. One thing I was thinking about over the weekend, though, is I think the market's fear of uncertainty will peak before, it's very likely it peaks before the election outcome's actually decided.
These signals that we've been looking at, one of the things, I don't know if you read about it, and I think we talked about it during commercial break last week, one of the things that's happened in the polls is the view that there's a lot more women going to vote than before. But that these signals, whether it be Bitcoin or whether it be DJT stock or whether it be the betting markets, may also all be off, if this is true, on the assumption that actually there is a very small percentage of the people in the betting markets who are women, for example. There's a very small percentage of people who are women who actually trade in Bitcoin, not who own Bitcoin, but who trade in Bitcoin. Very small group of women who are trading in DJT stock. What do you think of that?
I think there's some credence to that, just because we know, like, when you look at the Iowa polls, it was really the senior women voters that changed a lot. And you're right, these markets can be narrow, and they're very responsive to changes in liquidity. And I think it's a very tight race. I mean, it's going to be very close. I think anyone who thinks that they know who's going to win is really playing with fate, because I think it's a very tight race.
Yeah.
It's interesting from when polls close, too, because we've got, there's a couple here. Pennsylvania, North Carolina, and Georgia are all East Coast. So, if you have some definitive answers. They also, supposedly Virginia and New Hampshire are closer than people in the Harris camp would like. So there could be surprises early on.
Just wonder how long it takes when you have so many more people who have voted early or mail-in votes too. Those take longer to tally. So you might just by default be
like last time.
Yeah. I actually voted last week, and I actually had to wait for a lot of people. Turnout is really what's going to swing this election.
And then there's a number of states, obviously, that, by the way, get the early votes and then don't begin to tally them afterwards. And for all sorts of reasons that I would raise some real questions about why they're not tallying them.
Kind of a bummer when we see it.
Sometimes it's written into state legislation.
No, I understand that, but there's a view among those who are cynical about that they're not counting them until after, so that. And there are
we've seen it.
Except for what if
there's other countries that know by the end of the day. There's other
voteless.
Countries that know that night, and they've been talking to, we're like a little bit envious looking around.
You should be able to count.
Here's the problem. If they were counting them early and it was some secret, because you wouldn't want them releasing what the vote count was early, what if it got out? That's the problem with starting the count early.
I have not heard that as the explanation for
No,
it,
I'm just
and it's
raising the
only
question.
red states that have done this. So there's you can think whatever you want to think about that.
So
what do you think the market-
other than the election, because the elections, that's sort of what you hear about Wall Street. Elections don't really matter anyway. So if it is gridlock, which we don't know, but more likely, I think the odds are on that too. So you're still bullish.
Yeah, I'm bullish only in the sense that election uncertainty has caused people to de-risk and cash to sit on the sidelines, but the fundamentals have been good. Earnings season's been very good. The Fed is dovish, and I don't think it's going to matter who ends up in the White House. Even if it's split Congress or a sweep, I think markets do pretty well either way. So it sets up for a really good rally into year end. But when it starts in November is just what we don't know.
No. So when you look at we were talking about what Buffett's thinking with Apple or what he's thinking with bank. I mean, that you take Apple and a leading financial, and that covers a pretty big range of the markets. And Andrew thinks he's building an ark. Could you really? That wouldn't work. There's too many species to bring on there with him.
I don't. I'm just saying he's building a cash ark.
Cash ark.
An ark out of cash or something. Or is that what he's doing? He may be doing something else. I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, I know part of it is he's anticipating capital gains taxes could change, so he's taking those gains now. And he's not necessarily having a big cost of money because he's earning 5%. But next year, the cost of money is going to drop, so he'll have some pressure to deploy it.
So you heard what Tom Lee had to say. The issue is that the elections impose uncertainty on the market. The market does not like uncertainty. Investors, hedge funds, institutions, they don't like it. It's not good for the market because you don't know the direction in which the economy, the country, the money, where is the money going to go? What's the direction? And the stock market doesn't like that. It doesn't really matter per se which candidate gets in office. The mere fact that we just have all this uncertainty of not knowing which candidate will get there makes everything very poor for the market. That's the reason why a lot of the stocks have pulled back. Some stocks have run, then pulled back. Others have tanked and then recovered partially. It's been really volatile, and this is uncertainty. We also had PMI manufacturing data that came out Friday and PMI services data that comes out tomorrow on election day. So we have PMI services data on the same day we have elections. So this is also a reason why there's a lot of volatility, because even outside of the elections, PMI manufacturing data and PMI services data can disrupt the market. So because of this, we have a lot of uncertainty normally just around PMI data, which is manufacturing, services. We have payroll data. We have inflation data that comes out. And this in its own right creates somewhat of a sell-off or a pullback in the market. Now we pair that with the uncertainty of the election, and it gets even worse. Tom Lee even said that with the elections, Tom Lee also said that 70% of the people that he polled, or that were polled in his website, said that they believe that the election outcome would not be decided tomorrow and could take up to a week to count ballots or whatnot, very similar to the last election. This prolongs uncertainty in the market. It's not a good thing at all. If we have an election outcome tomorrow and it's simple and easy, and PMI services continues to expand like it's been, the markets will have a nice cushion for the rest of the week. But like Tom Lee said, and like I've been telling you, the Feds are dovish. They're cutting interest rates. Inflation's dropping like a rock. It's falling down. PMI services is expanding. PMI manufacturing has had some contractions, but it's stabilized. But with inflation going down and jobs being added, remember the jobs market is also improving. The reason why it looks like it's not that unemployment is necessarily going down. It's that there's more jobs available, which is skewing the numbers. We also have auto insurance and, of course, housing, which are the last two sectors to correct themselves. So once this happens, with interest rates getting cut before the end of the year and more basis points being cut through 2025, things are going to get a lot better. And even Tom Lee said we're set up for a bullish run after the elections. As we get through November, we're going to start seeing a turnaround in the market most likely. And he has a price target between $580 and $590 for the SPY by the end of the year, which is exactly what I have. So with the uncertainty of the market, though, it could pull back at any time. But there's always trade opportunities in a market where a stock is tanking. We find a bottom and we get in at a discount. There's always money to be made in the market, even if it's bearish or bullish. It doesn't matter. That's what I teach my students. I have students that have taken their $8,000 portfolio into $25,000 in 3 months. Other students have taken their $30,000, turned it into $70,000 in 3 months. I even have students that started with $300K. They now have almost $500K in 3.5 months. There's always opportunity in the market. If you guys are interested in learning these opportunities, how you can make money in a down market, up market, consolidating market, does not matter. I offer a full training course, Discord, and one-on-one coaching. If you guys show up committed to learn, I show up committed to teach you how to grow your portfolio. You guys can sign up at any time at investwithcorey.com. The link is in the information box below. Let's listen to what my student Adam has to say.
In just a short amount of time, the program that you offer, I've learned so much, and I've changed my entire approach to investing. I'm much more structured, much more safe, and I've seen consistent, profitable growth. I've seen the growth, and it's almost like unbelievable. Like in a market that we're in now, I was still able to consistently grow because you're so, methodical and structured, and you care about each student. I'm here to say it how it is, right? I've made consistent growth. So I started with $15,000, right? I am now at $40,000.
So you heard what Adam said. I care about my students. I put 110% effort in because when they lose, I lose, and I don't like to lose. I told myself when I achieved financial freedom, I would put in all the effort to help others achieve the same success. I grew up in a Catholic household, and my parents are very strict on me about being a good person and helping others when in need and when I can, which is why we help the homeless veterans. My father is a psychologist and actually works directly with homeless veterans, so we do this all the time. I am consistently geared up and ready to go to help others achieve their financial dreams and success, and I would love to help you. So right now in the market, there's plenty of opportunities, but there is always opportunities. For right now on YouTube, I think you guys should sit on your hands, wait for the elections to play out, play it safe, sit in a cash position, and if you're in the Discord, there'll be some trades, and I'll show you guys exactly what to do in this type of market. Once the elections are over, though, and PMI data is done this week, going into next week, things will start to stabilize, and we are going to have a pretty decent run, in my opinion, by the end of the year. Historically, November is decent. December and January are great, and we're going into that season right now, right after elections and after a lot of pullbacks. So there's going to be a lot of bullish and greed sentiment going around in November and December, especially if December's PMI data is good and the next earnings that are coming up through December are good as well. To give you guys a little example of exactly what happens and the reason why uncertainty affects the market is if Harris wins the election, trade with China will most likely be a little bit easier. Not saying that for sure, but there's a chance of that. So Alibaba and NIO could do slightly better, although I'm not so sure that this is going to be the case this time around either way with either candidate. Fintechs like SoFi, which will somewhat suffer because of the Biden and Harris administration's student loan forgiveness. That's not going to be good for them. If Donald Trump wins the election, well, then we're pretty much on track for things like GM and Ford to do better, jobs to come back stateside. We know that trading with China is going to be in our benefit with tariffs and whether or not they import. And Tesla is likely to do better because Elon Musk has endorsed Trump and has a relationship with him. So it's likely his company will do better as well under a Trump administration. It's also likely that crude oil will go down. In fact, almost certainty that crude oil will go down. Trump wants to drill, and he wants to drill domestically, and therefore oil prices will come down. And when crude oil prices in the States go down, the stock market goes up. That's just how it works. Basically, long story short, if we drill and we focus on doing the things that Trump wants to do, then that makes the stock market generally go up. Student loan forgiveness will also go away, which will help SoFi and other fintechs. And of course, with the tax rate cuts that he has proposed, things will get even better and more dovish with the stock market. Now, that's not necessarily saying that he is better than she is, but what I'm saying is with the uncertainty of not know who's getting in the office, the stock market doesn't know what to price in. It doesn't know what to price in for each company, stock, sector. There's no direction. Right now, it's all up in the air. So everybody's kind of in the unknown. Getting out. A lot of people are getting out so they don't waste their time in a stock that may go down with a certain candidate over another. There's a lot of uncertainty, and that's exactly what creates volatility. So it's not really a concern of who wins the election. It's the uncertainty that is driving the pullbacks and the volatility of the market. Once we get through tomorrow, if we can have a winning candidate tomorrow and it's announced and we can be done with this mess, everything in the stock market in the next week or two should stabilize and return to normal, maybe even sooner with some some bullish sentiment and some greed, we should be looking to return to somewhat normality, especially with the dovish Fed moving forward. Everything will be okay, but you just have to sit on your hands right now. If you don't believe me, you can look at the options chain. Implied volatility tomorrow is 3 times higher than it was today. Like I said, take it slow, be cautious. Remember, the objective in your trading account is to not lose money. And right now is not the time to trade. Wish you guys the best, and I'll see you on the next video. Take care of yourselves, fam.